Thank you to everybody for coming here today. Good morning. So I'm James Leeson. I'm the Head of Commercial at DP World London Gateway. I'm not going to bore you with too many slides, more a few pictures, which is always more interesting than words. I'm sure some of you have been here before, but really for those of you who haven't, I just thought I'd take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about what this place is, who we are, and then maybe linking a little bit to the theme of what you're here to talk about today, communication and sort of mobile connectivity. So this place a few years ago was a bit of a mess, really. It was the old Shell oil refinery, which had been here for many years and was closed down in the late 1990s, as you're probably aware. And before DP World acquired the site, this was P&O Ports. So P&O, I think many of you know, was a great British name, and P&O was divested into different parts. And P&O Ports was acquired by Dubai Ports. That's what the DP stands for, Dubai Ports World, in 2006. But before that time, P&O had acquired this site as a strategic location to develop a new deep water port, primarily because of its proximity to the main shipping lanes and particularly the proximity to the biggest consumer market in Europe, which is London and South East England. So that's why we're here today. So it was basically the environmental side of things had taken over. We got all sorts of newts and slow worms walking all over the place, or sliding all over the place, however newts and slow worms move. And we had to do a lot of cleaning up before we could even build a port. So what you see today is really many, many years of environmental work and then the construction side. And that's what you've got now is the newest and most technologically advanced port in the UK, without the shadow of a doubt. Okay? So that's a little view of the terminal where the ships come in. But who are DP World? I've already mentioned the name of Dubai Ports. So we are one of the largest port and terminal operators in the world, based in Dubai, which I'm sure many of you know, the point of working is in the middle of the map roughly. And we're spread throughout the whole world, and hopefully you can see some of the dots. A very strong concentration in Europe, Australasia and India, and then probably more recently there's been a lot of expansion in faster growing consumer markets like Africa, Asia, and still with a very strong focus also in the Middle East, which of course is the company's home base. So over to the right hand side, you've got the river, and you've got all those containers which I showed you on the first photo, and the cranes. So that's where all the ships come in, and that's where we do all sorts of things to do with containers moving on and off the port. On the left-hand side is our logistics park, and this is what we think is our big differentiator compared to other ports. It's about saying to companies, come and invest in Essex, in Thurrock, and be close to the port. Be it for imports or exports, why are you taking your goods to the Midlands or to the north, only to bring them all the way back to the southeast again? It means lots of carbon emissions, lots of wasted road journeys, and lots of cost for business and consumers when you can be here. Now, if I said this has been easy, I'd be lying. It has been quite a slow start, but we're now getting some traction, and over the last year, we've seen a lot more companies starting to see the real value proposition of this port. So where we are at the moment, well, we start from the top down. We've got Lidl, who I think we all know, one of the fastest growing supermarkets in the UK, a German retailer. They've taken one of our facilities, what we call the London Gateway Logistics Centre, and that's to do with their growth in the southeast. And they saw this as exactly the right location for their expansion because we're close to consumers. We've got phase 2 of the building. It says available. We're in final negotiations between two companies. Can't say exactly who we're going to get to sign the document, but one is more of a logistics provider, and the other very, very well known, and the other company is more into the transportation side as well as logistics. So we should have that leased fairly soon, and then we'll have an announcement on that. A joint venture with Prologis, who are the world's largest warehousing company, was a major step forward, and to get Dixons Carphone Warehouse to sign the lease was a big progress for us. We all know this company, major UK retailer, and to get that kind of name with products coming from, particularly from the Far East and also sort of the Middle East into the UK was very important. And they've chosen this location again precisely because of where it is relative to the market in the UK. And we're looking very optimistic that they will enter into a longer term relationship with us. We hope it's looking increasingly likely. We've then got an area on the left which we call the campus. We call that because they're where smaller facilities are. And we've got two confirmed signings there. We've got SH Pratt. So Pratt's are famous for bananas, and sometimes you see their labels stuck on the bananas. So they're the biggest banana importer in the UK. But what they're going to do here is nothing to do with bananas. They're actually branching out into the handling of perishable goods. And that fits obviously with our trades, which I mentioned a few minutes earlier. So they will be looking at handling perishable goods, packaging, redistributing them around the UK. And then we've got CMA CGM, who's one of the world's largest shipping lines. They're a major customer here, based in Marseille, in France. And they're also branching out into the logistics side of the business. And they are setting up a new facility which will open in the latter half of next year, again to handle the perishable side of goods. A little bit lower down was probably our first and our flagship announcement about UPS. So UPS is a brand I think everybody knows. This is their largest ever investment outside the United States of America. So it was a major announcement for us to get a name of that magnitude at the port. And not so much to do with the shipping side. This is about proximity to our direct rail link to the Channel Tunnel into continental Europe, and also our proximity to Greater London for parcel distribution. This is a largely automated parcel distribution facility for London and the South East. And then we've got some other developments which you'd expect around the port, and which have been a little bit late in coming. We've got a major truck park, which is literally behind these windows here. That's opening in Q2, and we'll have a number of dedicated hauliers, as well as a kind of common user space. And that's really important also for our relationship with the local community, because people who live in Corringham, Stamford Low, don't particularly want trucks parked all over the place. And for anybody who lives in the local community, I can tell you this will stop quite soon, as it has been a problem. The truck park will make a very big difference to residents and to us as a business. So that's really what this place is about. It's about the ships coming in, it's about the goods going through and getting into the supply chain and keeping it efficient and cost effective. And we say it's a port, but most ports will say it's more about a port community, and that's what we're trying to develop here. You can see there's a lot more land and there'll be a lot more companies coming. And how do communities interact? Well, they do it through meetings, but it's all forms of communication. And we've got goods from all over the world, so communications are extremely important to us as a business, just like to many of your businesses. And I think sort of leading to the theme, do we want to see communication be made easier? Of course we do. And I think this is a location which, obviously it's a good location while business is here. Are the communications perfect here? They're better than they were, but they're not perfect. And I think as a business we will support certainly the initiative that's starting today with the Chambers of Commerce. We want to see improved communications. I think from my personal experience, Britain could do a lot better at this. When we travel around Europe and we go to Asia, we're not the best. And that's certainly my personal reflection. I think it needs to improve significantly. And certainly when you speak to some of our customers, the impression could be a little bit negative about the UK. Not specifically about here, but the UK is not the best for connectivity. So that's not very scientific, it's just a little bit of personal experience. But certainly for our customers, it's all about communications. As people used to think of the paperwork with the ships, that's all gone. It's all done on e-technology and mobile technology these days. And a lot of the applications that we're developing as a port all revolve around mobile technology, and there'll be a lot more about this coming out this year and next year. So it's critically important to our success as a business, and I think to the success of this part of Essex, and to our plans to engage more people, the local community, to get people working here, that we have those communication tools in place. So that's it. That's it. Not too many words. A little introduction. If anybody wants a copy of that, they're welcome to have it. And I hope you have an interesting workshop, and thank you for coming here today.
Thank you, James. We're going to let you go now. We do realise you've got
minutes.
Thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our Director General at the BCC, Dr. Alan Marshall.
Well, thank you very much, Denise. Thanks, James, as well, for that kind introduction, for hosting us here today for the launch of this campaign. It's great to be at a chamber member to launch something which is of such great importance to business communities up and down the UK, and to launch our campaign on No More Not Spots. The aim of the campaign is pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen. It's to end not spots for voice coverage wherever UK phone users live, work, travel, or play. The reason for that? Well, we know when firms link up, whether in person or at a distance, they're more productive and they're more profitable. And it's no surprise, really, to us that erratic mobile phone coverage is something that really raises the passions of firms all across the UK. It's interesting, I've been working with the Chambers of Commerce for about a decade now, and this is one of the few issues where from Cornwall to Inverness, from Northern Ireland to Norfolk, everyone is concerned. It is something on everyone's minds, that connectivity and communications the Chamber referred to, of such critical importance to all businesses. And James, what you were saying just a moment ago about the way the business of conducting trade is changing, the fact that the paperwork is gone and everything is reliant on mobile technology, on apps and on electronic platforms now, that's happening in all of our businesses and in all of our industries. So getting this connectivity question right is so hugely important. For us at the BCC, this is part of a wider set of campaigns that we're running. Fixing the fundamentals for business and business growth, we think, is getting short shrift sometimes at the moment. If you go to Westminster, you go to Whitehall, and you see huge amounts of energy being poured into the Brexit process, you might get forgiven for thinking that nothing else matters in the heart of our government. And what we're trying to say to ministers, to civil servants, and to others, that whatever Brexit deal you may get, ultimately, it won't matter if we don't have the basics right here at home in order to do business. So if you've got potholed roads, you've got less than perfect communications connectivity on your mobile networks, you've got broadband delivery issues, you can't get the pipeline of skills and trained individuals need, the immigration system doesn't work for business, etc. It won't matter what sort of Brexit deal you've got, you won't be doing as much business as you otherwise would do. So our big priority is to get these basics right, and of course, getting mobile phone signal is one of these fundamentals. We've heard today, and some of our businesses have been on BBC Breakfast this morning, a surf park in Snowdonia in North Wales, where people actually can't get there sometimes because connectivity gaps mean their sat-nav doesn't work. Or indeed, when they get there, they can't upload their snaps, so they can't tell their friends and family what's going on, and indeed that source of advertising goes away from the business. There are very practical and real-world implications of what we're talking about. But I'm always reminded by them that not spots and partial not spots hamper their business, and they're a barrier to local success as well. If you go and you survey the Chamber of Commerce network around the UK, as we've done, about 70% of businesses have said to us that they are affected at some point in time by a partial or complete not spot gap in mobile coverage. 7 in 10 businesses. You can think about the productivity impact of that on so many of our firms and wonder if we get that right, if we can work constructively together in order to solve that particular problem, how much more business could we be doing? We could be doing so much more business indeed. Because it's become one of the basic requirements for all of our firms as conversations and transactions take place far away from town centres, from industrial estates, or from the home offices where so many of our businesses actually start. People don't depend on fixed lines anymore. They depend very much on mobile connectivity. Now, I think the UK's mobile operators have put in a huge amount of investment and have progressed tremendously in recent years. And indeed, our own surveys from our business communities say that they do think things have gotten better over the past 10 years or so. But there are still issues with phone signals dropping, and one particular area of concern for so many of our businesses was on the roads and rail networks, where people are going between destinations and trying to do business on the go. And of course, that is proving to be a real issue for so many. I had one business in Norfolk recently say to me they had to drive 10 miles down the A47 just to get a signal in order to be able to conduct businesses. And we hear stories like that literally up and down the UK. So that's what we're looking to try to solve. But the problems that we see here are down to not just any one group. And what we're being very careful to do in this campaign is to say we want to work constructively with everyone who is going to be involved in helping to get this right. Businesses won't get the results that they want to see on mobile connectivity by doing what some have done in the past, just point the finger of blame at someone and say, you go sort it. Actually, it's down to all of us. There are issues that are down to buildings and technology, for example. Vehicle design, the number of masts and mobile phone cells we've got out there. The natural landscape can influence this stuff, and the technologies in our individual phones too. One of the big things which we can fix, though, is in our planning system. We've seen too many planning applications to do positive things to extend and fix the mobile network get knocked back or delayed. And indeed, some of our public sector agencies have been less than forthcoming when it comes to granting access to public land in order to put in improvements to connectivity as well. So really, really important changes that could be made, actually simple changes that could be made. In post-Brexit Britain, James was referring to it just a moment ago, we have a lot of different things to do. We have trade to continue. We have top-flight economies around the world that we want to work with. And if some of our trading partners are coming to us and saying our connectivity is not as good as it could be, and indeed we know from some very recent work done to benchmark connectivity around the world, we're 54th in a global league table at the end of 2016. We could do better. You're absolutely right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And yes, whilst things have improved, more than 1 in 5 businesses is still telling us that the mobile phone network is not adequate to their needs for accessing suppliers, speaking to customers, or indeed connecting up with their own employees. And often it's an intermittent signal rather than a full lack of signal that causes some of the issues and hampers their activities. One business got in touch with us in Inverness, and they were saying, their business support company, they have to leave their building and cross the road in order to get a basic 2G signal in order to make calls to their customers. I mentioned before the Surfing and Leisure Company up in North Wales, where customers are struggling to book their visits because they can't get a signal through. And very often what some of these firms say to us is there is coverage, but it's some distance away. And actually the workarounds that businesses put in place just in order to be able to continue communication are hampering their productivity. So that's something we need to continue. So our campaign launching today is aimed at ending these not spots for voice coverage in all of the areas where UK phone users live, work, travel, and play. We want to make a real difference, and we think that the way we can most constructively work towards solutions is to get businesses and local communities to identify where those not spots are and to share the data so that we can work collaboratively with the operators, with the infrastructure providers, and indeed with local government and others who have a role to play in this, and try to solve some of those gaps and indeed make the case for investment when that is required. So that understanding of what's going on at the grassroots level is so hugely important. So I hope that those of you who are here today representing Essex Chambers can go away and tell others that you're doing business with to let us know whenever they find a not spot. You can do that with the hashtag for the campaign, share your not spot, and we have a dedicated web page as well where people can report it. And we're also going to be encouraging people to report those not spots through to each mobile phone operator. So if you're with one of the operators, we want you to be able to report that gap in service to them as well to make sure that they understand too where the issues are, because many of them in many cases will already be trying to work to find solutions, and your information helps their business case for action get better and better. So that awareness raising is absolutely key, and that is what we'll be focusing our attention on. We'll also be looking at how we can then locally bust through some of the problems that arise when people do report these not spots as well. And if we get shared plans to be developed across the country coming jointly from service and infrastructure providers, planning agencies, local authorities and local businesses, those business plans developed locally can make a really big difference. So there's so many of us who have a role to play in ending not spots across the United Kingdom. And I'm sure we all have the ambition for the UK to be the best connected country out there, as James was referring to earlier on. Let's be the best at this, because from this, so much of the business growth, productivity, investment and hiring that we all want to see will follow. So let me just finish, if I can, where I started. I think our future prosperity in this country really depends on getting the fundamentals right. The more we can look at those things which are within our own power in the UK rather than get tied up and obsessed with the Brexit process, the stronger we are going to be in the future, because we're going to have the platform from which to drive growth. So whether that's mobile connectivity, which we're focusing on today, whether it's business broadband, which is still an issue in a number of areas, whether it's the fact that we have £7 billion worth of unfunded repairs on our roads that haven't been sorted out, whether it's improving railway services, whatever else it might be. These are the things where we really want to focus our attention and focus our action. So that great businesses like this one that we're standing in today can continue to open new trade routes across the world, and so that more and more firms can actually use those to to get UK exports and UK products out to customers around the world, regardless of what our future trading relationship is with our friends in the EU. So if you experience a not spot, the easy ask today is to share it using the hashtag #ShareYourNotSpots. Engage with the Chamber here in Essex and indeed with Chambers of Commerce across the UK whenever you find some of the issues that are arising on this. And we will be here as the British Chambers of Commerce to work with you on this and trying to get to a real world solution. So I think it just remains for me to thank DP World Logistics for hosting us today, to thank Essex Chambers for organising today's event, to thank those businesses who are here for giving up your morning to talk to us about this issue and give us your feedback, and to the operators and infrastructure providers who've joined us today too, because what we're looking to do, as I said, is to build a constructive campaign focused on solutions working together. Thank you very much, everyone. We look forward to the discussion later on.
Thanks from Adam and from James. You know, from Essex Chambers' perspective, we're delighted to be sort of jointly hosting this campaign launch here today. It is an issue that is really passionate amongst quite a lot of our members. We've heard similar stories. We had a Rolls-Royce dealer up in North Essex, not very far from Cambridge. You think, ought to be able to get mobile phone signal there really, really easily. No. Like the business in Norfolk, he had to drive down the road to actually find somewhere where he could talk to his clients around the globe. Really frustrating if you're trying to sell something that's regarded as the sort of one of the prime examples of British engineering. You can't actually get in touch with your customers. So, as I say, we live in a digital age. We all carry around mobile phones, but actually are mini computers. Once upon a time, you carried around a mobile phone because you wanted to show how hip and trendy you were. I remember years ago seeing people with these giant bricks that they brought out occasionally and shouted in them on trains and so on to say, look at me, I've got a mobile phone, aren't I rich, and so on. That's not the case these days. Everybody has got a mobile phone, even if we can't use them all the time. Then, as I say, they are an essential tool for businesses on a day-to-day basis. And mobile phone signals are not just used for phones as well. We all have, I'm sure, tablets and so on that we use as well, using a SIM card that we stuck in there so that we can sit on the train and we can do our work as we're heading down from Colchester to London, or and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think one of the arguments about HS2 is, it's going to help businesses catch up time, get to London quicker. They can also do that work on the way there, but not if they haven't got a decent phone signal. We're not very far here in this part of Essex from the digital roundabout in East London, which is, I read the other day, sort of being heralded as the UK's answer to Silicon Valley in California. I was actually in California a couple of weeks ago on holiday. I'm not sure East London has much sort of similarity to California. Certainly, the only similarity I think then was that California was a bit like it is today, a bit dull and dull. But I have to tell you that even there, the mobile phone signal was not brilliant at times, so it's not something that's unique to the UK. We also have just up the road, in close to another port. There are, as James said, there are other ports around apart from DP World. Close to another port, we have the new Amazon distribution warehouse. Again, they will be relying on their customers going onto their websites, going onto their apps and so on, to order things that are then distributed from that warehouse. And that's going to be playing a major part in the Essex economy, in the UK economy. But we want to be able to enable our residents, our businesses, to be able to make contact with people like that. Essex is a very diverse county. On the western side of Essex, we have the M11 corridor, as I think they now refer to it, the London Stansted Cambridge corridor, the Innovation Zone, and in the heart of that we have the Harlow Enterprise Zone, where we've got major companies like Raytheon, Arrow Technology and so on, and some really new data centres that are being created there. But again, you go there, you find you can't easily get a mobile phone signal. These brilliant technology companies that you're not able to communicate with, or they're not able to communicate from. So, we fully support the BCC's campaign to identify and ultimately reduce those not spots. We have one of our officers based in Essex University, up in Colchester. And again, I find that when I step out of my office there, I can't always get a mobile phone signal. One of the things they're doing there, they're creating an innovation hub with support from the South East Local Enterprise, whose managing director we have here today. They're creating an innovation hub focusing on the development of creative and cultural businesses, several of which are talking about developing apps. But, as I've said over and over again, we need to have that connectivity to be able to use these innovative products. Digital isn't just about the high-speed fibre to the door that we're being sold by BT, by Virgin, by Sky, by everybody else. It is all about mobile signal as well. And that's why it's so essential that we actually have a good network right across the country. And here in Essex, we find it's not just in the rural areas where you'd expect there to be problems in getting a signal. You can go into the centre of Chelmsford, our county town, and find you have problems there. It's something that really does need addressing. And I'd just like to finish on a personal note about mobile phone connectivity, or the lack of it. We've talked about how we can use it to promote our businesses, but we have a lot of remote working these days. People out away from the offices, sometimes coastal areas and rural areas. If they have an accident, they want to know that they can get in touch with somebody to get support. And admittedly, this was several years ago, and this relates to my wife, who was actually out walking one of our dogs in North Essex. And she had another dog come running towards her because that wanted to play with ours. And in doing so, it collided with her, and she ended up with a broken leg. The person who was with the other dog was an elderly gentleman who wasn't tech savvy, he didn't have a mobile phone. But my wife did, and she thought, brilliant, I can get help. Unfortunately, there was no mobile phone signal there. So she lay on the ground for probably about 15 minutes until somebody literally came riding up on a horse who actually had a mobile phone that had got a signal. And he was able to phone for the emergency services to come and collect her and take her to hospital and get her broken leg treated. Now, today, we hope that signals have been improved. I can tell you in that particular part of Essex it hasn't, so just make sure we don't walk our dog there anymore. But it just shows it's not just about business, it's also about personal safety as well. It's about the safety of us as individuals, as employers, looking after staff and ensuring that we can comply with our duty of care towards our employees. So, as I say, Essex Chambers fully support this campaign. We will be urging all our members across the county to identify those not spots, get in touch with, look at the BCC website, get them recorded, and we will be happy to work with the mobile phone operators to help address this issue so that we can actually drive forward a modern digital economy in Essex